Crypto Kids, you need to watch this video within the next 24 hours because we're very likely about to see a breakout. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about that specific breakout and how I'm positioning myself in preparation for Bitcoin experiencing that move. So make sure to watch until the end of today's video. Over on today's the 26th, tomorrow's 27, and then Tuesday should be the 28th. We're going to be doing a discussion between me, Carl Da Vinci, Chris, and our friend Andres in Blockchain Live Forum in Dubai. If you are in Dubai, this is a conference that you have to check out. So we're going to be speaking at around 3 p.m. I'm going to be moderating the discussion. If you have any questions that you would like to ask one of these awesome legends, let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure we can live stream it to you here on this channel. So if you have any questions, let me know and I can prepare them from before and ask one of these incredible individuals one question that you may have. So let me know in the comments box. But with that said, let's begin with Bitcoin. I want to briefly discuss the interest rates and the inflation data that came out last week. I shared an update on the Crypto Kids Telegram, but obviously I want to give you guys here the full update too. So let's begin with the Bitcoin analysis. When we go into the 4 hourly time frame, there is two patterns that are emerging. One, you can argue that it's a inverse head and shoulder, and two, you can argue that a lot of people are saying this. You can argue that it's a symmetrical triangle. So these are the two patterns that are currently emerging on Bitcoin, and based off of the location and how far we've come into the pattern, we will likely see a breakout either within 24 hours time or within 48 hours time. The good thing is there is no outstanding CME gap from this weekend. We're about $500-600 below where we should be, but that will easily get filled in my opinion. So there isn't any major CME gap that we need to be worried about. So the breakout can take place in a more natural way. The only thing we have to be careful is the tremendous amount of resistance that is compiling between the price range of $12,000 all the way to $13.5 thousand. This comes from the bull and bear market support band. Then when you look at the volume analysis, and you can do the same thing on your chart, it's a great tool that I've been using quite recently. So you go to this, the projection area, you look at the anchored VWAP, and you can put it from the top of the swing high, and that will automatically give you the volume analysis, and you have to break the midline essentially to reverse the volume trend. So the volume trend reversal is at 12.5 within that resistance range. On top of this, you have the resistance from the inverse head and shoulder slash symmetrical triangle you're forming. So overall, it's an area that you have to break above, but it will be a complicated process to do so. But the good news is, if you are able to see a break above, then I think we will be heading for the 16.5 area. A lot of liquidity is building up at 16.5 and also 14.3. So if we are able to see a breakup, I think a move to that direction will make a lot of sense. We have some resistance in the middle of the range that we've been forming on the price since July. So I think 16 to 17 will be a good area that Bitcoin can come up to only if we're able to break above resistance. So how am I preparing? Well, I'm preparing with a trigger order position. I believe I shared this with you a few videos ago, but just to revisit it, I put a trigger position, meaning you can go to your Weeks account, which if you want to sign up to, and get a 20% bonus, you can use the first link in the description to sign up. Also, I'm building a pretty cool product, which all existing CryptoKid Week signups, or people that have used this link to sign up to Weeks, you guys will be able to take advantage of this product. It's still being built. I can't give you an exact timeline, maybe 2-3 weeks time, but if you do join using the first link, maybe even sooner, you will be able to access it. So make sure that you have an account and you're signed up and you have some money deposited, and all the later details will be revealed in future videos. I do have a trigger position, meaning that if price is to break above 113,640, I was being a bit more conservative just because there could be a liquidity grab and you can come down. So to avoid that, I'm trying to be a bit more conservative. So I put 13.640. You could even go a bit higher and go for like $14,000 to go over the wick that we created on Tuesday. Up to you. This is what I've done. And it's an additional position to obviously all the longs that we've opened since $77,000. So it's lower risk for me, right? It's a much lower risk trade to take. I put it at 13.640, and then you do market. So if price is to penetrate that level, it will automatically jump into a position. And then you can adjust your leverage. I wouldn't go crazy with leverage. I would scale up maybe if we see a continuation. I'm forced to stay with 10x leverage because all of my other positions are at 10x. So I have to risk manage with my margin. And then you look at the leverage, you look at the amount of margin you want to put in, and then you look at the final sum of the position. So if you wanted to put $500 into this trade, with 10x leverage, it's going to become $5,000. And then you can press open long, and as soon as price goes above 13.64, the system will automatically put you into a long position. So that's one thing that I'm preparing for. If that doesn't happen, or even if it does happen, but then price corrects later on, for me, it's going to be like a DCA position in the long term. I'm not too bothered about it, and it's important for me to state that because we do have all those existing positions, even if this one fails. It's okay. For me, it's fine. But I do have another limit order, and I have the limit order set at 100.2, and that is if Bitcoin still wants to correct to the 54 simple, which I believe there's still a good chance that we do that. And the 54 simple is important. As you will notice, we've spoken about this before, but you've been seeing double tops a lot in this specific cycle, and whenever you break below the bull and bear market support band, you come down to the 54 simple moving average to find your supports, and currently that's sitting at 100.2. So just as a final point of DCA, I do have a order set at 100.2. That wraps up the Bitcoin analysis. Another interesting thing that I figured out, thanks to Benjamin Cohen, was if you look at the Pi cycle indicator, the top and bottom indicators, and if we remove all of our drawings, and if we remove the bull and bear market support band, 54 simple moving average, I want to go into the weekly time frame, and I want to zoom out a little bit. Everybody's pointing out that the Pi cycle top and bottom are so far away from each other. They're so far away that we cannot have possibly reached the top. And I do agree with you. If we looked at the QT analysis and we pointed out how the business cycles state that this whole pump is very similar to the 2019 pump, you can see that we didn't see these two came quite close in 2019, but they didn't cross producing a Pi cycle top. So if you were to look at the business cycle analysis, the Pi cycle top also makes sense. And the only way that they would cross is if Bitcoin was to experience a severe move to the upside quickly. That would force those two bands closer into each other and then potentially produce a top. But this is one of the top indicators on CoinMarketCap that have still not flashed yet. But anyways, I'm still bullish. Not expecting any bear market unless the bull and bear market crosses into the 54 simple. So, I'm bullish overall, and that's important to know. When we go into the interest rate analysis, we know that in 3 days' time, we have our FOMC, which will be very volatile. I'm going to be streaming it on the Moonshow channel like I always do. 25 basis point reduction is the expected. And the truth is, when you go into inflation, the inflation data came out at 3%. So inflation is still increasing to the upside, and it's now 1 full percentage point away from the 2% inflation target. The facts are that we've not reached 2% inflation in 4.5 years, so it's a bit unrealistic to put 2% as your targets. And the only concern I have with CPI would be if CPI decides to jump like 50 basis points or 1 full percentage point in one reading. Unless, or if you do that, you're not going to see it influence the interest rate much. I think the 2-year bond is more the sort of thing the Fed is following, and the 2-year yield is currently depreciating, and it shows that a 25 basis point cut is likely on the table. There's always a lag between the 2-year bond yield and the actual interest rate. You can notice that here the bond yield fell sort of first a lot, and then the interest rate followed. This takes place because investors have their own anticipations of if there's going to be a rate hike or a rate cut, and the 2-year bond is reflective of that. So it's a good lagging indicator to take a look at if you wanted to trade ahead of things. And so far, there's no rapid decrease in the 2-year bond yield, which means that the interest rate will likely not see a rapid decrease, and that's supported by the Fed's dot plot. So sadly, our altcoin sees and expectations, we have to focus on the business cycle, and that shows you the next year is looking like the likely time frame for us to see altcoin season. Just checking if we can double check the dot plot charts. Should be here. Yeah, so we're not going to see any sort of aggressive rate cut, sadly, but it's a good tool for the future. Whenever the 2-year bond yield drops first, that's going to signal a rate cut, and then the vice versa is also true. But yeah, with that said, that's it for today's video. Make sure to stay tuned for the Sunday crypto recap. It's going to be live in 9 hours. If you missed any of the Moonshow daily crypto lives within this week, then tonight's show will be a good sort of recap of every news event that took place in crypto within this week. Not much happened, but it's still cool to know everything, so that you're alert and you're aware of the industry and all the events that are taking place. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all on the next video very soon. Bye bye, guys.